the good people of Utah have the correct information, because an article got put out this week that I read that was sent to me by everyone who tries to troll me at all moments about the Jets having a history of ruining quarterbacks. There was even a shot taken at the beloved Joe Namath as being the most overrated player in the history of the NFL. Let's get into it, guys, real quick, and then we'll move on to Mock Madness, because not for nothing, Joe Namath did throw 220 interceptions. I don't think anyone thinks he's in the Hall of Fame based off his stats. You know what I'm saying, guys? So it's kind of a cheap shot to take, considering how statistically things were different back then. You go and you want to talk about the most overrated player ever, and you look at Terry Bradshaw, and he threw almost as many interceptions as Joe Namath did. But, you know, he's looked at as one of the better quarterbacks of all time. We'll get into that in a moment. But let's get into this myth that the Jets ruin quarterbacks. Now, Mike, I think you and me would agree the Jets don't have a great history when it comes to drafting players at any position.
No.
Quarterbacks, running backs, wide receiver, take a shot any position. We probably have been horrible at drafting there, okay? We already know that. And that's kind of more what the reality is than this myth that has been created by people recently, writers and internet personalities, even some people we talk to that are Jet fans, that the Jets ruin quarterbacks. And one article was written by a gentleman in Utah, like I mentioned, and he said historically this is what the Jets do. That's their history. Going back forever, the Jets just ruin quarterbacks. And even like we said, took a shot at Joe Namath. So what I went ahead and did for everyone is I did the work. Okay, I want to ease the stress of everyone in Utah who might be worrying about their poor boy Zach Wilson coming out here to New York and what the Jets might do. Forget about the fact that we have Joe Douglas now, who's won a Super Bowl as a front office person, right? That we have Robert Saleh, that everyone in the league says is one of the best coaches, right? That we have 21 draft picks, Mike, in the next 2 years. That we have Mekhi Becton, that we have Denzel Mims, that we have all this cap space. Forget about that. Forget about the logical reasons why, if you took the Jets name out of the beginning of what I just said, and I told you all those things and said any other team, people would be like, oh, that seems pretty good. But with the Jets, we know the storyline. We know the way it's been spun. Mike, you've said it many times when it comes to the Jets and the kind of the stigma they have throughout the league. And you go back throughout our history now. Back in 1965, we drafted Joe Namath. We know that was the number one pick. Joe Namath, 13 years in the league, went to a Super Bowl. So I can't say the Jets ruined him, right? 76. Now, he played 13 years. They don't draft into the quarterback till Richard Todd, 1976. That's a while later, okay? Richard Todd, 10 years in the league, 81, 82, makes the playoffs. Can't say that's a bust. Pretty decent career. I'm not saying he played 10 years in the league, made the playoffs twice, didn't get ruined. So we're up to about mid-80s here without the Jets ruining anyone yet, guys. I'm just stick with me here with the point I'm trying to make. Then they draft Ken O'Brien in 1983, played with the Jets 10 years, pretty decent stats, AFC Player of the Year in 1985. You can't say Ken O'Brien was really ruined by the Jets, because if you win AFC Player of the Year and you have pretty good stats, he made the playoffs 3 times himself. Another guy not ruined by the Jets, right, Mike? They go ahead, they draft Brownie Nagel, 91. You're going to skip over him.
I mean, he was a second-round pick. You know,
he was 34th pick. So the Jets are the only team that'll get blamed for not hitting on all their second-round picks. Most teams miss on a first-rounder. That's bad. Jets are the only team that if they draft a quarterback in the second round, that gets included in the mess. That's the Jets world, though. Then they go to 2000 now. So Joe Namath, Richard Todd, Ken O'Brien, that's 3 quarterbacks in a row, all played more than a decade, all had multiple playoff appearances, all had pretty decent careers. Joe Namath won a Super Bowl. Now you get to Chad Pennington in the year 2000. Mike, we know Chad played 8 years here, made the playoffs twice with the Jets. Excuse me, 3 times with the Jets,
Three times
with the Jets, 1 time with the Miami Dolphins. Chad Pennington finished with the 5th highest completion percentage in the history of the NFL, 20th ranked quarterback rating in the history of the NFL. Injuries limited Chad's career, as everybody knows. He only played about 8, maybe 6 or 7 real full seasons there. Can't say the Jets really ruined his career either. So they drafted at this point 4 quarterbacks in the first round. All 4 quarterbacks have had decent careers. Then you get into Mark Sanchez. Now, this is the guy people love to push forward as the quarterback the Jets ruined. When Mark Sanchez got drafted in 2009, that year, the Jets had the number 1 rushing team in the NFL. The Jets had the number 1 defense in the NFL. The Jets had Thomas Jones, Sean Green, Leon Washington in the backfield. That's not bad. They had Jericho Cotchery. They had Edwards. They had Dustin Keller. Their offensive line was DeBrickashaw, Ferguson, Faneca, Mangold, Brandon Moore, and Damien Woody. That's probably our best offensive line we've ever had in my life.
Ever.
Okay, so that's what he came into. You can't create a better scenario for a quarterback to walk into on paper, to come into a place where they're just going to hand the ball off. You don't have to do much. Sanchez still almost ruined that season. His quarterback rating was a 65. He was a bum. He was 53% completion percentage as a rookie. You go on to his second season, he didn't get too much better statistically, but both years, what did the Jets do? They made the AFC Championship game. So a quarterback that's not that good, that you're saying we ruined, still made the AFC Championship game twice. Okay, and then when he was asked to do more, the subsequent years after that, Sanchez couldn't live up to it. He wasn't that good of a quarterback. Okay, and then you get into after Sanchez, and you're looking at Geno Smith. You're looking at Christian Hackenberg. Picks that were just bad picks in the second round. They didn't get ruined by the Jets, Mike. They just stink. But
Terrible.
with the Jets, the narrative is if you get drafted by the Jets and you're in any position, you're not good. You can blame the Jets. It's not the player's fault. We're the only team that it's the Jets' fault. Christian Hackenberg stinks. It's not just a bad draft pick. It was one of the worst draft picks of all time. He couldn't play in the XFL, Mike.
Right.
But it's the Jets' fault. Geno Smith is the Jets' fault. Mark Sanchez is the Jets' fault. The only quarterback that you can say reasonably, even remotely, resembles someone the Jets may have ruined or not done their best to, put talent around him to succeed, in my eyes, is Sam Darnold, the most recent quarterback. And that's why people have that narrative in their heads as if this is something the Jets have done historically. When I just went through all our first round quarterbacks in the history of our team, first and second round quarterbacks, Namath, Todd, O'Brien, Pennington, Sanchez, Darnold, and then we've drafted 4 guys in the second round. That's 10 picks out of 750 picks in the history of our franchise. Yeah. Ever taken on a first or second round quarterback, okay? When it comes to ruining quarterbacks and that being a narrative people push forward, it's lazy because they're talking about one quarterback. They're talking about one quarterback. It's Sam Darnold. And Mike, not for nothing, nobody knows yet if it's actually the Jets' fault, if there is someone to blame in the scenario why he's not that good, or the lowest rated quarterback last year, or the lowest rated quarterback the last 3 years, or if he's just not that good a player. They're going to find out next year in Carolina. I know what you think, Mike. What do you got to say about it?
I mean, you're just spitting the truth there. Sam already had a turnover problem when he was at USC. That problem was then manifested and realized in the NFL. We didn't see a significant jump from any year 1 to year 2 to year 3. He still had turnover problems. And when you look at the metrics from a clean pocket, he was still one of the lowest rated quarterbacks in the NFL. But that being said, if you want to blame the Jets for Darnold, fine. But like you said, you go back and look at all of our first round picks. Tell me one that we've ruined. The problem with the Jets has been we do not draft well, 1. And 2, we have only drafted 5 quarterbacks in the first round ever. That's the issue. I mean, the Denver Broncos have drafted 5 quarterbacks in the first round in the last 6 years, and they missed on every single pick. That's what's funny. So saying? But we ruin quarterbaks, but they don't, right?
Yeah, and that's what I want to say. And I'll move on. I just want to throw this as food for thought for you and Wookie and everyone out there. So before the Kansas City Chiefs drafted Patrick Mahomes, they had never drafted a good quarterback in the history of their franchise. They had Trent Green play there. He came from somewhere else. They had Alex Smith play there. He came from somewhere else. They had Joe Montana for 2 years. Came from somewhere else. In the history of their franchise, they had never drafted one quarterback that remotely even was successful at all.
Who won the Super Bowl 4? What quarterback won that? That is I never even.
Well, I think it might have been Len Dawson, but Len Dawson wasn't even drafted by the Chiefs. Len Dawson came from different teams. He played for 2 teams before the Chiefs. So, and I could be wrong if you go back, but when I went through my notes, and you can look, and also you go ahead now, I'm going to throw this at you. The Chiefs are pretty good right now, right? And this is the thing where narratives can get spun. So Tampa Bay Buccaneers, before Jameis Winston came there, right?
Right.
They drafted Sean King, Josh Freeman. They had Chris Sims there. They brought Leftwich in. They had Glennon in. Then they brought Jameis Winston in.
Scrubs.
Did anyone say the Tampa Bay ruined him, or is it just he couldn't?
He wasn't.
Everyone blames Winston. Everybody with Tampa Bay, it's the player.
Right.
Okay, you look at the Bills. They drafted J.P. Lossman in 2004, Trent Edwards, E.J. Manuel, Nathan Peterman. Did anyone think they were a team that was ruining quarterbacks when they took Josh Allen? Was that the narrative? No. And they had a whole laundry list of bugs.
I don't want to cause a war here, but look at the Giants, Phil Simms and Eli, right? Eli was a great pick. Phil Simms drafted, but outside of that, was Tarkington, Fran Tarkington drafted by the Giants?
I believe so, yeah. If you're going back in the day,
okay,
I mean,
so there you go. That's
good. But what I'm doing, what I want to make the point is like, before the Titans got lucky with Ryan Tannehill, they drafted Vince Young, they drafted Jake Locker, they drafted Zach Mettenberger. When they tricked Mariota, was anyone saying, man, this is a team that ruins quarterbacks? Nope, doesn't happen to them, right? When, like I said, the Bills took a bunch of guys. When the Broncos went after Elway, when they went Jake Plummer, Jay Cutler, Kyle Orton, Tim Tebow, Chris Sims, Brock Osweiler, Trevor Siemian, Paxton Lynch, Case Keenum, and Joe Flacco on the run through there. Does anyone right now say the Broncos ruin quarterbacks? Elway still has a job right now. In the middle of that, all they had was Peyton Manning, but his worst year his whole life in Denver. And my point, guys, is this myth that there's teams out there that are just like awesome at drafting quarterbacks. And their whole history of 60 years is they just nail quarterback drafts. It's a myth. Look at the best teams in the league. Look at the Saints. How are they getting quarterbacks for Drew Brees? You know, how is any team? So my point is that the Jets' percentage of hitting on quarterbacks in the first round is probably not that much different than most teams. You know, it's around the same percentage. It's just that the Jets don't take guys in the first round. They've only taken 5 or 6 guys, so they haven't taken many chances all these years. I think other teams have been more proactive with going after these quarterbacks. And I even think if you look at the Steelers, man, after Bradshaw, it took a long time till Ben Roethlisberger were there, and they were able to get it going again. So I think that the Jets have been horrific at drafting at many positions, guys. We know the front office has not been good, but I do think the misnomer that they ruin quarterbacks, or that any quarterback aside from Sam Darnold even has an argument they got ruined, is nonsense.
Totally agree, my friend.
Oh, absolutely.
Sam, real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry. You want to weigh in on your boy? You want to weigh in on your boy from Southern California?
Yeah, I do. Well, of course, I represent him because he's from Southern California, played in Southern California. But I think I'm really upset because I got to order a jersey for Sam, and I never got to wear it because COVID hit, and all that happened. So I'm a little upset about that. According to what I've heard from you guys and from the Jets world, is that the coach wasn't the best. So if you don't really have a really good coach, then it's kind of hard to develop a player. On top of the fact that there's no fans watching the games. So that's
I mean, and like I said, that's why if you want to blame the Jets for Sam, I'm not going to disagree. But it's still yet to be determined if he was and will be a good quarterback.
Yeah, because the one thing everyone has to move forward with in their mind, and just keep this in your mind, is that if he does go and turn it around with the Titans, people love to say, they like to bring up Tannehill as someone, oh my God, look what he did when he left Gase. And then you look at the stats, you're like, wow, his quarterback rating was like a 95 when Gase was even there.
Right.
He was good then, and he's just a little bit better now.
It's not really a good example. He was 18th. He was the 18th ranked quarterback under Gase, right? And he moved up to number 10. So he moved 8 spots.
Yeah, and people act like
Gase,
and he's better, but they act like it's this otherworldly change.
Right, exactly. So he went from like 20th, 18th up to 10th. Yeah. Sam is 33.
Yeah.
So okay, so let's move him 10 spots.
23? Yeah.
And he's 23.
Yeah.
Is that getting
exactly.
it done?
Exactly.
Is that getting it done? It's not the same.
Exactly. So like we're saying, man, he's gonna have to defy history to prove everybody wrong. But more power to him. Good luck. He's a good kid. Now it's time. Now it's time, boys. It's time. Mock Madness 2021